I was an art major here and graduated in '68, so that means I came here a little over 50 years ago, and I was one of the first co-eds. When I came here, it was co-ed. The nuns still wore habits, and they still ran the school, and there were no men's bathrooms anywhere. Remember that. And I was an art major and an education minor. So part of this talk will be about the education work I do. I actually do three things. I'm a landscape painter, and you'll see some of those, and I illustrate these nonfiction books. And then I've developed programs that talk about the relationship between art and science, which is observation. So I've developed programs that focus on the observation. So the concept is that I'm not teaching you art, I'm not teaching science, I'm teaching you how to observe, see what's there, report back using drawings. Several years ago, it was always obvious that you could also report back using words. And several years ago, I started working with Christy Miner, who teaches at a school near Binghamton, New York, and she's a literacy coordinator. And so she developed the whole unit on the writing part, reporting back using words. So we have a curriculum. We've done a couple pilot studies. I'm going to show you sort of a brief, pecha kucha, really. It's 20 slides, 20 seconds each slide. But I gave a talk at the Carl Museum in Amherst, Mass. And we opened for Howard Gardner, which was actually a very cool thing. But he was the keynote. So that'll give you a quick overview of that aspect. So there's three different parts, really. And so I live in Northampton. Well, right now, for 40 years I lived in Northampton, and I now just moved last year to East Hampton, 4 miles away. This is the old factory, the Stanley Home Products building. And so that's me up there in the corner. And so inside, this is just to give you a little idea. So basically, it's when I moved out of the studio and my house, which I now rent, I got rid of half my stuff and consolidated. So you can see my easel. The workshop is on the right. Underneath me, I'm up on a loft. Underneath is a kitchen, bathroom, and all that stuff. And so it works pretty well for me. Oops. So I'm a landscape painter, and so this would be a typical landscape working from life. You see the basic things there. That's a detail of that painting. And I continue to do some of that. I work from photos a lot, but so this is, now you'll see a little bit more of this later because I'm going to show you how I developed this. But this is a landscape in Western Mass, about 20 miles from where I am. And this was the same, I worked from the same exact reference to do these two different pieces, and so I just interpret it, and neither of them look exactly like the photograph either. So I'm just using information, and that's the basis. Now, one of the things I wanted to say about drawing is that I studied here with Rudy Trini, who recently passed away. I don't know how many of you have heard of him, but he taught drawing. And he really did teach me how to draw. Now, he thought art stopped after the Renaissance, and then he was in the South Studio, and this is the old days. And the North Studio was all these new people that came in, swept in, and they thought everything before the 1950s was just junk, not worth saving. They got rid of the plaster casts and all that stuff. So I was right in between, and I worked for the art department for all 4 years that I was here. So let me just, oops. So these are mostly from books. I'll tell you the ones that weren't from books. Can we make it a little darker? Is it possible?
It goes completely dark.
This is it, so you can't get a little darker. Whoa.
There you go.
Well, that works for me.
Yep, that's
Okay,
great.
thanks. You just see things a little better. So this book is called Fire in the Forest. The books are up here, but this shows the 350 years. Oh, I didn't finish what I was going to say about Rudy Trini. So he taught me how to draw, and the anecdote I like to tell is that when I got there, I thought I could draw, but he used to just scream at me in class, Marstell, you can render better than I can, but you can't draw. And he was right, and he beat me over the head enough, I eventually got it. Started to understand anyway. So all my work, what I teach, everything is about working from inside, working out towards the surface. So the last thing you do is detail, color, anything like that. You just get the structure and the form and understand that, and everything flows from there. Most of the work I do, I glaze. Now these are oil, and I did mostly, it's all glaze. Everything I do is glazing. So very little straight opaque stuff. So this shows the same scene over 2 years, 3 years, before the fire, after the fire, or during the fire and after the fire. This is from a book about crows, and this is a little scene actually that landscape is right down from my old studio, and then I just added the crows. This is oil as well. This is watercolor, and it's from Butternut Hollow Pond book, which is a sort of a food chain book. Everybody eats everybody else in this book, but it starts at dawn and goes all the way to the end of the day. I think there's a few more. So these are all from that book. Nothing cute gets eaten though. Don't worry. The turtles after got away. This is down in the ocean, down in the ocean, starts up at the surface and goes all the way down to the bottom. And this is the cover, and there's one way down deep. And these are oil, but these are, again, glazings, just all glazing technique. I do the drawing and then build up the surface from there. This is watercolor. This is from Butternut Hollow. I guess I didn't have them all together, but from the Butternut Hollow Pond book. And that's how it ends. This is a landscape painting, pretty straight ahead, not for a book. And that's about 18 by 24, and it's done with 2, 3 colors. So mostly all the work I do now is I work with the primary colors. I just do a drawing. Sometimes I just paint with the blue, with blue paint, and then and work out the values and the structure with that, and then come in with the yellow and the red, and you build it up. You go back and forth and build it up and build it up, and either oil or watercolor. So, this is from my most recent book, which is an alphabet book for middle grade kids. Most of these books are for middle grade kids, so 4th, 5th, 6th, maybe 3rd, maybe 7th. And so a book like this has a lot of text connected with it, but this is G is for glacier. And I actually did go to Antarctica, and that's based on a photo I took there. I got a National Science Foundation Artists and Writers grant to go there and study seals, which was very cool. I lived out on the ice with the scientists. This is H is for hurricane. Now this book, all these, so this one and all the books from the alphabet book were done entirely in Photoshop. So 0 paper, pencils, ink, anything. It's just all done in Photoshop. Drawing is drawing. If you can't draw, Photoshop is not going to help you. So I just drew, did my drawing with the the wireless pen, and then just worked in layers underneath. You drop out the white and work from the bottom up, and the drawing stays on top. This is I and J. Oops. Igneous and Jurassic. Sort of combined the two. M is for moon. N is for northern lights. R is for rainforest. And W is for water cycle. So there's mist and water and frozen, which is in the background. This is like a scene. This is a pond near me. I added the storm, I added the fishermen, I added the mountains in the background. There's not too many Alps in eastern Massachusetts. So I talked about, I'm a landscape painter, and I like to look very closely at small parts of nature. That's what I particularly like. So this is a tree that you could crawl through. Underneath it's a nurse log from Hoh rainforest in the state of Washington. And that was done with essentially 2 colors. I drew it, there's no pencil, I just drew with the brush, and I used burnt greenish umber and yellow ochre. And I think maybe I put a blush of red at the very end. But and that went very quickly. This was like 2 days. This is looking at a couple square inches of forest floor. So if you were walking down and you stopped and picked up a handful of stuff, you might see stuff like this. Now I added all the color. It was a brainy black and white photograph. I added a number of things, but it's like pine needles the size of a toothpick, a lot of it. That's a detail. This is oil. And I try to bring that into the illustration as much as possible. So this is from one of my illustrations. It's from the Crow book. And so I develop it the same way, pencil drawing and then glazing the oil. This is oil, so glazing the oil in. Now this is from the Monarch book. This is the left part was used in the cover. And so I went down to Mexico to do the research, where the monarchs go in the winter, and built this from about 100 different references, and made up, I guess, too. Monarch laying its last egg. They lay, you may know, they lay their eggs on milkweed plants. We're going to see those in a second. There we go. So it's a milkweed plant. You see the pods there. And on the pods, they're associated with milkweed plants and pods are milkweed. The monarch lays its egg on the leaf, and then the caterpillar eats the leaves. And milkweed bug eats the seeds. So they only come along when the pods are there in the fall.